taking so long, but we should be live. Doesn't want to have it. I wonder if there's a breakdown of the system or something.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, these things happen. That's all part of it. Why is it taking some? It shouldn't. Oh, we're live now.
Yeah. Right. Hi, folks. Hello again, Eric.
Have I got to? That's it. Right. Okay. Right. I think we're okay now. We should be on YouTube. So I'll have a quick look on YouTube and see if I'm broadcasting there. And just bear with us a few seconds. And let's hope we are. Sorry about the problem with Rumble, but I don't know. It's a very problematical thing. We should be live. And I'll just go into my channel to see if we are. And yes, we're live streaming now. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to have to go into there and hang on, what's going on? Oh, I pressed the wrong button here. Now let's have a look here. Yes, we're live streaming, and we're going to get feedback any minute now. That's it, right? And we should have some people in chat soon. We got the thumbs up, so the 7. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you're on now. That's great, right? So we are being heard on YouTube. So we're going through on YouTube. I've sent the new links through. So there we go. Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening, everybody, and thanks, Survival Steve, for being so patient. You've got the patience of a saint, and. No, it's very kind of you. And good evening, lads. We got Daisy44. We got Jojo Gizmo. Come on. So I'm absolutely delighted that we are going live on YouTube. So we got to watch a little bit what we say tonight. And I was hoping to be a little bit more, shall we say, open, speak a little bit more openly, but we can't do that. But that's life, you know. Now, hang on. The chat room's working in. Hey, goody. The chat room is actually working in the studio, which it didn't do last week. So that's pretty good. So I'm absolutely delighted at that. So it's all systems go. Now let's have a quick look here. I've got to set a few things up. I've got to press a few buttons, which I there we go. That's it, right? We got things started now, so we should be hunky dory now. Also, so I must ask Jojo Gizmo, Daisy, can you hear me? Can you hear both of us? Yeah, you're on now. That's good. So we've only got to wait for Patrick and Paul. They should be on, and let's hope things will work out properly. Now, I was going to start the show talking about propaganda. Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks, Patrick. He's just announced that. By the way, you're welcome on the show. It's talking about propaganda from World War II to the present day, how it's actually used, and how marvellous the BBC has been at propaganda. Now, first of all, I was going to start off. There was a TV drama in the 1960s, to be precise, it was called Manhunt. Now, there's been a lot of films and plays of that title, so it's very confusing when I mention the name Manhunt. But Manhunt was made for television. It was made in 1969, and it had Alfred Lynch, Peter Barkworth, and Sid Heyman. And that was a lady, by the way, Sid, C-Y-D. And it was about World War II, about the French resistance, and it was a blockbuster at the time. And lots of people, being 1969, watched the program, including my uncle and my father and that. And it was very exciting every week. I mean, it's probably a load of old crap now if you looked at it. And what happened is it was about them getting this top secret, whatever it was, through from France to London, and it would help the war effort, you see. And along the way, loads of people got killed. Lots of things happened. And Paul joins us. Evening, Paul. And what happened is when they got to London, eventually, after loads of people have risked their lives and all got killed, it ends with a posh chap in an office said, "Well, thank you for this information that you brought through, but it's really we don't really need it because it's rather old and things have moved on." And it had a moral to it. And my uncle found the moral and he said, yes, the moral is that what was it all for? What do those people waste their life for? What did they get killed for? Who's going to remember them? Because the information they got through was old hat. They didn't need it. And moving on, swiftly on from there, apparently Dr. Fauci, who I can't pronounce his name, he's been experimenting on animals, allegedly, to give them a sex change. What a nice chap, I don't think. Giving animals sex changes for later use with humans, allegedly. Now, going back to, as I say, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I suspect it's true. Going back to propaganda of World War II, Richard Dimbleby did an account from a camp, shall we say, and history has shown that, and science has shown that it wasn't quite accurate. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't really want to go down that avenue, because we're on YouTube. But Howard Marshall, who was a BBC correspondent, was supposed to have gone ashore with my father's unit. My father, and this was on D-Day, was one of the initial assaults on a Gold Beach on D-Day, jig section. And what really happened is apparently they heard that Howard Marshall didn't go ashore because the bombardment was so ferocious that he stayed on board the ship. Well, my father got a recording of the of the account that he gave many years after the war, which you could buy from the BBC, and you can still hear to this day on the BBC archives. And the man it's obvious to my father that he was nowhere near the beach. He probably recorded it in London. There's no sound of gunfire. And he said, as the men wade ashore, they're in fine fettle. And he called the landing crafts barges. Oh, the barges are coming ashore now. And I said to a chappie this and all. And when my father heard this recording, he was fuming. And people are still believing it, because when he came off the landing craft, they landed in deep water because the landing craft hit the sandbank, which was done by the Germans to stop this landing craft coming in. And when they got ashore, they were absolutely plastered. There were sitting ducks on the beach and this bombardment went on, and they had to get off the beach. They had to run across a live minefield, which they later found out that only 1 in 6 mines were live because the RAF had bombed the trains carrying the detonators. So that's how they survived. Now, people will hear Howard Marshall and they say, oh, it's the BBC, it must be true. And historians who don't do any research will look into that and they'll say, oh, well, they just waded the shore. Oh, that was easy, Gold Beach jig section. Well, no, that's not the truth. And this is how you get history that is corrupted. And have you found that, Steve, where even, in life, where a report has happened and what you've seen is completely different and it's a complete load of balderdash? I was going to say another word.
I mean, in recent times, you can definitely say that there's going to be some absolute junk being transmitted over the airwaves. in terms of propaganda. I can't say I've personally experienced, events on the ground, so to speak. Certainly in some of the operations I've been involved with, which have been misreported or potentially obscured, deliberately or intentionally, for that matter. But I mean, this definitely goes on without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, there's units in not just the UK, but practically every country will probably have some sort of ministry or department or organization whose sole intent and purpose is to distribute and disseminate propaganda. I mean, probably one of the most prominent elements of propaganda I can recall was on, I think it was Gulf One, and I don't want to give the news channel away. It was simply because I'm not entirely 100% sure on my accuracy, but I believe it was one of the prominent American news channels, a three-letter agency, perhaps a three-letter channel, which blatantly showed or give sound effects of bombs dropping and gas being set off, and the news broadcasters were wearing gas masks, helmets, and various other things to kind of feed into the psychodrama that was going on at the time, which was absolute baloney. I don't know if you remember that at all. It was
I
actually
do.
comical.
Well, apparently, I don't remember that. I mean, according to the late Ian R. Crane, he went to the Gulf soon after the first Gulf War, and he knew for a fact, and it is well known, that the American Special Forces flooded the Gulf with oil. They turned the taps on and blamed it on the Iraqi army.
Mm.
So, and he said it was all well known. And when he started to, shall we say, blab a little bit, he got threatened. And
Did he really? Wow.
yes, yes,
I mean, that's typical of a sort of, you could say, a special forces operation. Um, and again, if it's involving special forces troops, it's unlikely that that information will ever come to light. And if it does, it'll be many, many years after the event. But it kind of bears similarities to Nord Stream, the Nord Stream attack, which was in the last few years.
yes, yes. That's the thing. Yes, and I think that uh, what gets me though about propaganda is how much people will believe that are not the truth. Another one was we had a neighbour. Now, my dad was in Malta, one of the had more bombs drop on Malta than the entire Blitz of London, one of the most heavily bombed concentrated areas in World War II. And I think I'm not sure whether you could compare it with Tokyo or places like that in the Far East, but I know it was one of the most heavily bombed. And
Mm-hmm.
our neighbour where I used to live when I was a kid had it in her head that my dad was in Gibraltar because her brother was in Gibraltar during the war, and he didn't see any action at all. He was in Gibraltar, and she said, and she was making it out that it was my dad, but was lying. Well, my brother was in Gibraltar. He never saw any action. He said, no, I was in Malta. That's right, Gibraltar. No, I was in Malta. And eventually he got an atlas and he showed her and he said, look, there's Malta, there's Gibraltar. And she was still convinced my dad was in Gibraltar.
Wow.
And she told other neighbours, oh, my brother was in Gibraltar. He didn't see the action. I don't know what he's on about. And he couldn't get it through to her. There's Paul. Hello, Paul. Are you with us tonight?
I don't know, am I?
I think you are. Yes, we had a séance. We said, "Are you coming in, Paul? Are you there?" And you miss all the fun and games.
I'm so I've just had a lot of problems, but I think you have too, haven't you? So, can you hear me now?
I
You
can
can
hear
finally
you
hear
now.
me.
I need a psychiatrist very quickly because I'm sort of, well, I went on to Rumble. I've done all I've been a good boy. I ticked all the boxes, and the bleeding thing didn't broadcast on Rumble. So I've had to come over to YouTube. So we got to not say words like tit or bum tonight because we're on YouTube.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry about that. I've ever since I tried to join you half an hour ago. Let's not bog it down in technical things, but I've just had I've had a lot of fun. Anyway, just to let you know, the signal's going out properly over Soapbox because your butt wasn't working properly, Eric. This is a problem.
Really? My butt doesn't work properly.
You had a broken butt. And so I've gone in and found this new YouTube thing. And anyway, hi.
Hello. And I'll tell you something, a big
Hi,
thank
Steve.
you.
Hi, Paul.
And a big thank you goes out to Patrick. He's been an absolute angel.
He's a pain in the ass.
No,
he's done nothing.
He's directed everybody over to YouTube.
Yeah.
Patrick, thanks a million, mate. It's much appreciated. And the check's in the post. Well, you've missed, as I say, what I was saying about propaganda. We got to be a bit careful because we're on YouTube, which I'm bloody because I wanted to say a few things which I can't say. That
I think you can say them, Eric. It's just that because we're all now part of the everything's loose, but really this is a secret super surveillance project. You'll get the knock on the door in about 2 years. Okay, so probably I don't think anything would happen immediately. So let's just all.
Well, I fancy a bit of gruel as well, and let's face it, you get a nice cell all to yourself, and this can be quite comfortable, free heating. And I've heard that a lot of prisoners, you get free television, computer games. I think it might be all right,
Yeah, I'll be okay.
Right. So what we're saying is propaganda that's believed from World War II and believed throughout the ages. And I can't go into this, obviously, but I sent a little link to you to a film with David, the historian.
Yeah, I've listened to it. Yeah.
And I don't really want to go down that road, obviously, on YouTube, but it certainly tells you a lot about what was said at that time. And I was just saying that a chap called Howard Marshall, who is the BBC correspondent, did a correspondence of the beach that my dad landed on as if he was the first one on that beach. And it's obvious he recorded it, not necessarily on the ship, but possibly in London or somewhere else. But he definitely was not there. And people are now listening to that recording of the 231 Brigade, who were the initial assault brigade on Gold Beach Jig Section. And they're thinking it's a walkover. And he's saying, oh, there's chaps are in fine fettle and the barges are coming in. Didn't call them landing craft. And you don't hear any gunfire in the background. You don't hear, it's just quiet. And, it's unbelievable. And people heard that and they wouldn't listen to my dad, who was actually there. And they were all pinned down on the beach being absolutely hammered by massive bombardment. They'll believe the Howard Marshall fantasy, but they won't believe the people that were truly there. And this is the point I'm getting at. And I guess you may have, Steve, you just mentioned something about the Gulf War.
Yeah, you could take our present situation as well. And again, I know we're on YouTube, so I'll be careful of what I actually say. But the amount of propaganda going on nowadays is just absolutely astronomical. I think obviously a lot of it's based on medical stuff, which doesn't probably need much in terms of an explanation amongst your viewers. But even let's just say the deeds of a particular American tech billionaire or trillionaire and his presidential buddy, I think they seem to be getting tons and tons of propaganda regarding their exploits at the moment. Yes. I almost feel sorry for, I don't know, people wanting to search for truth, because essentially I don't think anybody actually knows what the truth is. It's swamped with that much, let's just say the fog of war has swamped everything into total obscurity at the moment.
What do you think, Paul?
Yeah. What's the thing? What's that thing about apples? It only takes one rotten apple in a barrel to bugger the whole thing up. I don't think that's literally what it says. But yeah, I've given up. I've let go now. I can't be bothered. It's impossible. Yeah. It's not possible under the current communication space to really work too much out. I think it's good fun to try and study it, though, but not all day long. You've got to go to the toilet and do your ablutions and cook and everything. But overall, it's such a blizzard of information. It seems to, or is it maybe that we've just been agitated to pay more attention to it? But there seems to be so much stuff coming through all the time. And obviously the events in the States are kind of theatrical propaganda on steroids right now, some of which is going to be true, some of which most definitely is not going to be true. I mean, I'm just trying to look for the overall theme of what's going on. And there was that clip I played on Thursday from this guy who I don't even know his name. It's a wonderful, where he's basically saying that Trump's role right now within the realm of propaganda is he's trusted by the crowd, by the electorate, as it were. And therefore, he's the best guy to deliver the story to them at the moment in such a way that they will accept it. So it's all being dressed up that everything's going to go great. And maybe it is. I just don't know whether I'm coming across as a naive idiot, overly optimistic, or too cynical. It's just it's very difficult to gauge how to really respond to all of this stuff, or at least I'm finding it that way at the moment. And but he's been asked to deliver all these wonderful messages, like I was saying, on Monday, and then insane stuff on Tuesday, without being called out on it. And then everybody, in response to the stuff like we're going to turn Gaza into a holiday resort, this kind of stuff, everybody who wants to defend him says, oh, he's playing seventh dimensional interstellar chess. Okay. Well, it just goes on. Maybe he is, but what can you just sit back and you look at it all and you go, they've got such command of being able to pound everybody's brain. It's like they've got howitzers and we've got nothing in comparison.
Well,
so it's tricky. It's very tricky. Yeah. It is. And I'm not saying they're lying all the time. In fact, they would never do it. They've never ever done that. They've always thrown in a lie into a barrel of truth, and then it's impossible to find where the lie is. It becomes virtually impossible.
Oh, that's a brilliant analogy. That is a brilliant one. Throw a lie into a barrel of truth. What a fantastic analogy. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, it's that thing. I mean, it sort of seeps into everything else. And I think, if we look at this US aid thing or USAID, thing that's just come out with so-called this charity, you begin to see, well, obviously we're being allowed to see this, right? They want us to see this. If it's a genuine thing, then it reveals something that we've all suspected for a long time. It's just that apparently we've now got some specific figures on it. So it turns out like the BBC, 8% of its revenue was coming from its income was coming from this thing, So this US aid thing, courtesy of the CIA, has been funding all of this gay ops for the last 15, 20 years, all of this woke garbage. It all comes from them, Yeah. So if there's going to be retribution and they're really going to do stuff, but you see, I'm highly suspicious of Musk and of Trump, all of them. I just think they're all being given roles in a play. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope it all just turns out like, it's so lovely and nice, but really, I can't see that happening. These people, they don't change their tack. They might change their style. And I've no way of knowing ultimately, but we will see, won't we? You saw that incident with Trump moving the chair for Netanyahu, didn't you? I've seen it interpreted both ways. I've seen it interpreted two ways. One way is Trump's in charge because he's treating Netanyahu like a woman. Here you are, dear. I'll bring the chair out. You sit down, darling. All that kind of stuff. So, yeah, maybe that's got some legs. The other one is that in the Freemasonic orders, you always pull the chair out for the master of the house, and therefore he's being the slave. Anyway, it's all a little bit, it's a bit wacky, isn't it? Isn't it wacky?
It is a bit wacky, but I mean, let's face it. Look what he's surrounded by. You've got Trumpy trousers, surrounded by Slick Willie. And then you've got this musky bloke who I don't know that he's all that he's cracked up to be. He just seems to be an illusionist. I really do believe he's an illusionist.
Mhm.
And then you got the rest of the creep show around him, and they say you sort of judge a person by the friendship they keep. Well, I don't particularly like the friendship he keeps, do you?
No,
Hello,
I don't.
you know, hello, Slick Willie, come over to tea. No, it's all a load of what they call the shit of the bull. That's really what it is. Bullshit most of the time. But
Well, this sort of technical nirvana to them that they've got in mind is really where this is headed. All this thing with the digital currency malarkey. I'm not for or against digital currencies, but I am against the people that are going to end up controlling them. And that's because it won't be us. So it's irrelevant to us. It won't actually confer any benefits to us at all. And in fact, it's extremely threatening, isn't it? Because if they could micromanage your behavior by saying, oh, we see you wrote this comment on Twitter 16 years ago, and that's very, very naughty. So for the next 3 weeks, you won't be able to drive your car more than 3 miles because of X, Y, and Z factor. Or when you go to pay for books, your credit card, they'll be literally able to micromanage every expenditure you pay. And this is like them on steroids. They've thought about this for years. I think I've mentioned, 30 years ago when I was sitting down with this guy that taught me about banking, he was telling me all about this back then. Not literally like this. We couldn't have envisaged exactly how it would look, but the principle was the same. They want to get rid of cash. Why? Because you can do things with cash and they don't know what you're doing. And I'm only interested, therefore, in cash.
Same here. But what gets me is, have you heard about that silver-haired old age pensioner that got arrested? And it's about he mentioned, I think jokingly, about let's put it this way, ropes, necks, and things like that, governments, and he was shoved in a cell for a couple of hours and then allowed to go home. I mean, what? And whilst that's going on, there's old ladies being robbed and ladies being raped and people being all kinds of nasty things going on. But the police are looking at someone with hate speech, an old age pension who's as harmless could be.
Mm-hmm.
Are they a load of sissies in the police or something? They're only going,
no, they're just scared. They're scared of losing their job, aren't they, and not getting paid like everybody else.
Yeah,
that's how it works. I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're all sellouts for me. I mean, I've had several mates who were in the police, and they're all top blokes. I used to work with the police quite a lot in my military role, and as you well know, I'll speak out quite blatantly and openly against anybody currently serving in the military, and this extends to the police as well. They are still in animal brain. They need to move out of actually, I'd say many of them are still in the reptile brain, which is even lower than the animal brain. They need to desperately move into that human brain and join the human race and understand morality. They need to understand what's going on in the political arena today, which is pretty much tyranny. If you want a one-word answer, we are facing tyranny. The people that they are policing are under severe tyranny, and all that these guys are doing, and ladies, are extending that application of tyranny through their complete disregard for morality, for conscience. So I'm speaking in kind of simple terms here. I think this is one of the things that we need to do when facing severe levels of propaganda. As you could probably well understand, it's so difficult to get a grasp of the situation going on in many aspects of the world today, because it's so convoluted and poisoned and polluted by propaganda, psychological operations, psyops, false flags, by just disinformation in general. That what we probably need to do is go back to something we could refer to as first principles, i.e., relying upon a sense of morality, applying conscience, and trying to establish the higher mind that we are all capable of doing, including the police. And I referred to that just moments ago, which is essentially entering into the human element of the triune brain, the three-stage process of the brain, the uppermost part of that, the highest thought processing center, is known collectively as the human brain. And this is where the police need to start to enter. And I hope they take offense at this, because sadly they can't process logic. I think the only thing left for a lot of them, and this includes all of my mates in the army and all of my mates in the police, is they need to essentially become offended by the words that people like myself are saying. And I sincerely hope this starts to etch onto their mindsets.
I think that's great, because I think we also got to clarify. See, I've been on about a spiritual awakening that was organised by the Secret Service in the 1920s and also by the CIA in the 1960s in America. But the awakening that you are talking about is worlds apart from the controlled one.
Yeah.
And your one, because, and this is the thing, they've muddied the waters, but yours is pure, because I can see where you're coming from. We've all got to look at their fear porn, laugh at it, and chuck it in a bin, sort of thing, and not let our minds get dragged down and bogged down to their constant propaganda. But
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I've read some of your recent comments on your Fockham Hall channel, so I understand exactly your points on the spiritual awakening aspects that you're talking about. And again, this is kind of something that has been planted into the mindset of many, let's just say the New Age movement in general, which, as you know, has been written extensively about in the book that we contributed into, Fake Awake, about the New Age movement and how many aspects of what people would class to be a spiritual awakening. This isn't anything new. And again, I think you alluded to that. It was kind of addressed in World War One, that people, there would be a great awakening. But an awakening can still be established by everyone on Earth, and that's essentially by gaining access to the higher mind state. As I said, everybody with a brain, every human being on Earth has got a three-stage aspect to the brain. It's known as the triune brain. Tri as in three. So there's three elements to it. The lowest aspect is often known as the reptilian brain, the reptilian mind, or the R complex. And again, this is kind of this is all geared towards fight or flight and survival. This aspect of and of course, these are all important. We couldn't function without them. But when we are engaged in the R complex, the reptilian brain, it's essentially because we are driven by fear, complexity of information, and essentially this is why a lot of propaganda goes on in the first place, is simply to keep the average person in the R complex. Because when we are in the R complex, we switch off to higher thought and higher rationale. And we saw this working magnificently during the last few years of a health crisis, when shopkeepers were acting like little Hitlers and tried to get on a bus, and the bus driver would again engage his all complex little Hitler syndrome, and the whole world was facing trouble and strife as a result of people not being able to process complex and critical information. The next stage of that process is the three-stage aspect of the mind is the emotional aspect, and this is known as the mammalian brain, which is centered around the limbic system, the aspect, the region of the mind called the limbic system. This deals with emotions. So if we are engaged in emotional response, again, we are unable to process and process higher level of critical information. And if we can't process critical information, we can't make the appropriate critical decisions that we need to, which is only engaged by accessing the human brain, the higher aspect, which is often centered around the neocortex. This is why, if you've seen the film The Matrix, the lead character Neo, Neo became invincible, and he was he was able to dodge bullets and become a superstar simply because he had in fact he went through that 3-stage process through his meeting with Trinity. Do you remember that in the
I haven't
film?
seen the film. No, I haven't seen the
Right.
film.
In the film The Matrix, Neo, the lead character played by Keanu Reeves, encounters a woman called Trinity. Again, Trinity as in 3. And through processing this understanding, he engages his higher mind and becomes invincible, essentially. But it's kind of it's kind of a parable about the triune brain and establishing the higher mind or the neocortex.
Yeah, I can understand. But the thing that gets me is that what's happening now, people refer to Germany in World War II. I call it naughty Nazi syndrome. People have got this naughty Nazi syndrome. They say they did this, they did that. But you look at the things going on now, where they're giving children sex education. They're giving children sex changes before they are adult and can make up their mind and things like that. They're just, it's just absolutely sick what they're doing, and I just, it makes me gasp. And if you mentioned what has gone on over the years since 1945, and you said to people, okay, who did this? They'd all say, oh, it's the Nazis did that, the Nazis did that. No, it's we that have done this. For example, in America, they did an experiment where they gave Negroes syphilis and literally gave them syphilis. And they thought that they were being given medication, so-called civilization. They also, America was very high on eugenics. And in Norway, after 1945, there was a lot of children whose fathers were German because of the German occupation of Norway. And I know this for a fact because one of the singer, was it Frida in ABBA? She's half German, and her mother had to escape to Sweden because they was going to bung her in a mental institution. They put children that were half German into mental institutions. Now, you imagine if we took a step back and we said, who did that? People say, oh, it's the Nazis. No, it was the Allies that did that, or the so-called democratic countries that did that. Look at thalidomide. I've seen thalidomide cases, and it ain't nice. These poor little sods with no arms, and it's horrendous. But thalidomide, they actually marketed that for 2 years before they stopped it. And I mean, what's your view on this, Paul? I mean, we're just hearing a one-sided view of history all the time. So, what do you feel?
Well, I think it's probably a class thing. I know we think of it over here in terms of lower class, hello, middle class, hello, and upper class, I say, or whatever, right? We think about it in those things, but there's another class sort of above it all, I think. And, I suppose I refer to it as the money power, but it doesn't necessarily need to focus in on just that. What I tend to think is that they are very different to us. That's obvious. And they've written documents to that effect. And I think their main anxiety is us. They were quite happy to have normal people educated up to a point. Then they got a bit concerned about it. particularly when they found out lots of working class people are actually there's a small percentage, can be ridiculously bright. And in America, of course, they've got more of a history of people coming out of nowhere and doing something. They certainly did a couple of 100 years ago. Of course, their system now is quite tightened up as well because it's matured. So you get these sort of hidden control systems that build up in civilization, but you feel them. You feel the sort of restrictions on things. So I think most of their language and most of their thinking, when they use the word we, we're not included, which is good. I don't want to be included with them, but it isn't. But most people mistake that when they go, we're going to improve the economy. Whose economy? Not mine. You mean yours, right? You mean economic factors for you. And that's because there's a divide. And I think these people are godless because they're full of their own. They've got a lot of evidence, of course, to suggest that they're better than everybody else. And in some regards, they are. Yeah, in some regards, they are, because they operate in a very small world where the opportunities are few and far between, and they got them, probably because of what mummy and daddy did or whatever. It's not all about that. Of course, people do come out, but there's a kind of, it's to go back to the George Carlin Club. There's a big club and you're not in it. And it's clubitis, I think. And this is why you get odd things happening between enemies in war. The Freemasons across both of the armies have got much more in common and quite happy to have all the troops slaughtered.
Yes.
It's a really simplified version of it, but I'm sure that sort of stuff is part and parcel of it, that they would betray their own nation because they're not loyal to the nation. They're loyal to the brotherhood or whatever it is that they call it, and they're not the only organization like that. That's kind of what we face. It's an internal sort of cancer. And unfortunately, it's at the highest levels of the management of nations. So you only have to hear what they're saying. What was it was talking about the other day? Like Bill Gates recently was talking the other week about we won't need as many people to do these things. But what he means is we are going to get rid of as many surplus people. I mean, they had that Georgia Guidestones things, didn't they, floating around for years, 500 million. I'm neither for nor against the whole thing about population because, honestly, I have no idea how many people are living on the earth anyway. We're just told this stuff, aren't we? I just accept that there probably are an awful lot of people in China and Indonesia and India, nearly 4 billion according to the stats. And the other 50% or 45% of the world is spread everywhere else, which may or may not be true. I don't know. It's very, very difficult now, the more we get exposed to these things. But I think it's that. I think... what's that? There's a book that Bertrand Russell wrote in the 1950s called The Impact of Science on Society. And it's about this systemization using technology. And they sell it back in their blurb as this is going to improve the economy. Well, it doesn't. It never has. It doesn't improve the economy at all, not for us. It means it's going to improve their ability to control you in the economic system that they're building up. And that's what they're into because they're petrified of the peasants revolting. And I'm really keen that we do.
I agree.
Something
I
like
agree.
That,
But I like what you said here. In fiscal year 2023, US aid managed a budget of 43 billion, comprising about 0.7% of the total US budget. Bloody hell, that's a lot of lolly. That's not exactly loose change, is it?
No, it's probably about 500 billion a year, I suppose, if you match that up. I just found that on the net because we were just looking at it to try and think about it. But it's a lot of money. Yeah, and of course this comes back to this thread that I know we return to regularly, and we will do because we have to, because it's right at the heart of the whole thing. Because they are the people that create the money, these sorts of situations occur.
Yeah.
And whilst they're continually allowed to do that, you'll never, ever stamp this out. It's like a fire, and you're addressing the wrong end of it all the time. It's not going to make any difference. This is the thing to affect. So I still think that a public movement to get people to, it's not so much pulling out the banking system, it's we want ownership of it transferring over to us. And I want
agree.
completely transparent accounting. I know I'm living in La La Land because the amount of power they've got is off the charts, right? And the real power they've got is to get policemen to stove your head in because the policeman won't get paid at the end of the month. It's that simple. If they don't get paid,
Yeah.
people will do anything when they are desperate. When they are desperate, just like you would, you go, shit, what do I do? Feed my family or go and beat by beating this guy up or not? I'm going to beat the guy up. That's what happens. It's that bad. It's a systemic disease. And that's we've got to find a way of addressing that to short circuit that process, because it's very effective, unfortunately. History shows it.
That's a very clear point. And I mean, you're entirely right that when it comes to feeding your family or establishing your paycheck or doing the right thing, well, time immemorial has shown and proven through the history of mankind that people will opt for the money option. It's known as moral relativism, and I mean, this is one of the biggest religions in the world. It's the fact that people will not do the right thing, as opposed to if it means that they will not receive money or suffer some sort of financial penalty or hardship. I myself, I was still serving in the army on good money with a good secure job, etc., etc. When a certain health emergency occurred, and I lost out massively financially. Probably probably lose my pension rights as well. Again, and if that's the case, that's the penalty I'm willing to take, because this is a big hardship when it comes to doing the right thing. Nobody said it's going to be easy. Nobody said you're going to be financially better off. I'm not. I'm not giving a sob story here. Essentially, I've done the right thing, which is I'm not siding with it. Unlawful actions, an unlawful organization, and working with a tyrannical, let's just say, government. This is where people need to be. This is where the police need to be. This is where the military need to be now, in my shoes. That's as simple as that. That's the bottom line.
But you can sleep at night, Steve. You've got a clear
conscience.
What?
Yeah, I mean, that's what all I've done is I've exercised conscience, and I mentioned that earlier when I said we need to get down to causal factors and first principles. In the fog of war, like I said earlier, in the fog of war, with all the propaganda, the disinformation, and the psyops, the psychological operations, the information warfare campaign that's bombarding humanity at the moment. The only thing left for us really is to establish first principles. I'm exercising conscience, and in essentially what that means is establishing right from wrong. Is it right for me to continue with my job, knowing full well that I will be supporting tyranny, essentially, tyranny upon the people who I'm supposed to be serving and protecting? Well, no, that's not right, is it? It's not morally right. We don't have to do a big scientific debate on how that's not morally right. We just know it instinctively, either in our hearts and our minds, and we can do some simple analysis if we really wanted to just establish right from wrong in that respect. And if it's not right, then we have to exercise our conscience and do something about it. So again, this is it's easy to pinpoint, say, the police or the military in this respect. But this can apply to everybody: nurses, doctors, council officials, teachers. We all have to exercise conscience, and that essentially means establishing right from wrong.
Yeah,
and if it means a financial penalty, then so be it. So this is harsh, but this is the only way the world essentially will change for the better, is when enough people have the moral courage, I guess, the moral courage and the fortitude to do what's right over doing what's wrong, and establishing the distinction of moral relativism. I hope that makes sense.
It certainly does, but I'm optimistic. I've got a feeling that things are going to change for the better, because what goes around comes around, and I've got this feeling that the powers that be are desperate. I think they're hanging by a thread on the lies they've told in the past, because as Gandhi once said, truth always finds a way through, and it does. Eventually it will find its way through, and we're finding out the packs of lies that have been told. Like I was telling you about that Howard Marshall report. And it's so sad that people are believing all this garbage all the time. But again, the pigeons come home to roost. And
all of this I agree with, Eric. Once there's lots of truths, there's lots of information, massive amounts of information has been brought to light, and I know lots of people are starting to look up what's going on, and some of the things that they've been mistakenly led up the garden path with in the past. But the one sad fact still remains, which still needs to be worked out, and that's the fact that you could say it's a dangerous religion that's many people have fallen for and are still engaged in kind of a form of mass hypnosis. And this religion I'm referring to is a religion of statism. Essentially, it's the belief in authority. So we can quite clearly understand, certainly the three of us speaking, and many people, if not everybody in your viewership, will understand that the authorities in question are politically, morally, and in many other ways corrupt and not operating rightfully, not doing the right thing. I mean, when you're talking about imposing certain restrictions and elements of tyranny upon people, this is clearly not the engaged in right action and right behavior. So what we need to do essentially with fundamental amounts of people in the world is stop relying on this false dialectic, this false premise of the belief in authority.
Excellent.
I think the curtain needs to be pulled on this institution of government.
Yes, I agree with you. And by the way, Patrick, welcome, mate. I'm terribly sorry. You've been waiting to come in, and I've been sitting there listening.
I was just waiting for about 2 minutes. It wasn't that bad.
Oh, you sound like a robot, Patrick.
Oh, bloody hell. It's the Daleks. They come to attack.
You sound like a Dalek, yeah.
It's like the old Ken Dodd joke, isn't it? What a lovely day. What a lovely day to shove a cucumber through the vicar's letterbox and shout, "The Martians are coming." Are you there, Patrick? Are you with us? No.
I'm not with you and not.
Oh, bloody hell. Yes,
it's obviously night of the gremlins, the tech gremlins tonight.
Everything
you might as well get them all into one show in one go, Eric. It's the best thing. Get them all out in one go.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody that's migrated from Rumble over to YouTube. But the trouble with YouTube, we've got to watch what we say, and I wanted to say a lot more on Rumble, and I think we'll have to do this show at a later date. Because I wanted to say a lot more, which I can't on YouTube. But one good thing is that I can now promote tomorrow's show, which is with Deb. Deb's coming back, and I've got a cracker of a joke for you at the beginning. So watch out for that one. It's a Keir Starmer joke. So I think you'll all enjoy that one. Also, Steve, I think you've got something to advertise.
Yeah, I've got a few things.
Far away, mate.
If anyone's in the northeast, I know of a young lady who's doing a sound bath, which is on Monday night. So if anyone's in the northeast of England, and you fancy a sound bath, get yourself to I believe it's South Newsham Football Club, 6 p.m. I believe, which is a sound bath. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done a sound bath before, but they're very yeah, you have.
Yes, I've done a sound bath.
No, it's all new to me. I don't even have baths. I haven't had a bath for about 6 years.
No, but as long as you bring plenty of soap, you should be all right, And Oh no, I still can't mention the girl coming out of getting out of the bath joke, can I? Because we're on YouTube. Oh dear. Anyway, well, moving on. No, actually, I've been to a sound bath, yes, and it's interesting, but it's nothing to do with bathing. You don't remove. Oh, you don't remove any clothes. Oh, hang on, we got we got Patrick trying to say.
I had to switch microphones. It's terrible.
Yeah.
No, you can't talk to us, Patrick. You've got to be quiet. That's awful.
I have my iPhone right now. I'm talking
You do.
to
You sound like a robot from a 1950s science fiction movie where all the scenery in the background's wobbling around and you can walk. It's just super, super weird and wrong.
It's
plain wrong.
You gotta laugh. Hang on, I read to just get booked. It says, he said, what is it? Hang on. He said it sounds like Metal Mickey, and Aunt Sally says, it sounds like he's blowing a kazoo. And
it does sound like Metal Mickey, doesn't it? It does, yes. Actually.
Okay, well, we're going to make a cup of brew. Oh, you're gonna have a brew. You're gonna have a cup. That's good. And I'm sure Patrick's got English genes in him because he always likes a cup of tea when there's a crisis, you know. And I think that's a sort of the thing, isn't it? You have a brew up when there's a crisis. So
yeah. If in doubt, put the kettle on.
Do you remember Carry On? What was that Stone Age Carry On film now? Carry On something.
Caveman.
No, it's the Romans. Was it Carry On Cleo? Was it Cleo? And there's a Roman. It's Sid James as the Roman sort of senior rank in the army, and he's reporting to one of the high ups. He says, I don't know. He says they're really funny, these ancient Britons. He said, really? He said, yeah. He said they're fighting us. So he said, and suddenly, a bloke goes to the top of a hill and shouts, "Tee up!" and they all run away.
I used to tell.
Did I ever bore you with how the tea break got institutionalized in England?
No. How did it get institutionalized?
It's really fascinating, this, right? So, well, I'm sort of fascinating for nerds, but it's good. So when they were building the major capitals of Europe in the late 1700s, right through the 1800s, early 1900s, all that period, right? But particularly the 1800s, even before cars had come along and stuff like that, you've got an awful lot of building work going on in these major capitals to get everything. You've got sewer pipes going in for the first time, yeah, and electric cables later on, and gas mains, all that kind of stuff. And you got a lot of horses, yeah, a lot, right, in London, and horses, being au naturel in the street. Okay, so you've got urine, feces, gas, electricity, pools of stagnant water. They were pretty diseased and stagnant sort of places to work, right? Yeah. So I don't know what the number is for Europe, but across whatever it is, the amount of days lost in the UK to illness amongst work crews was about a third of what it was across Europe. And the reason is they discovered that by drinking tea, the tannin in the tea lines the stomach and makes it more impervious to getting disease from airborne nasties. And that's why it was instituted. It's why you had to have your tea. That's why it came about. They were forced to drink tea. You must drink your tea. Of course, it's not a hardship. But yeah, it's true. It's the tannin in the tea. And you can't drink enough tea. It's impossible to overdose on tea. It's all good for you. The more you have, the more you'll get like Superman.
And did you know why they have plane trees in London? Because plane trees soak up the pollution. They thrive on pollution.
Do they?
Love it. Yeah. And sorry, he's going to say, Steve. Sorry, mate.
I was going to just, since you're talking about tea, we used to have a saying in the army that you should never be more than arm's length away from your rifle. But I would always add to that by saying you should never be more than arm's length away from a cup of tea. Now, I used to have something called a weapon belt, which is a bit like a back belt, which contains equipment and ammunition. And one of my ammunition pouches was the perfect size to fit a thermal cup, which I would always have a cup of tea in. So it is, when you're cold and wet as a soldier, having a cup of tea is the biggest morale boost going.
I bet. I would
bet.
think so.
Yeah. I think the worst thing though is cold feet. If you've got cold feet, you feel bloody awful. It affects the rest of your body. Did you find that,
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, one kind of thing on that is never really go far without a second pair of socks. No matter what you're doing, always have a second pair of socks to hand, because again, I'm talking soldiering. You're always going to be cold and wet. You're always going to be crawling through ditches or streams or rivers. Obviously, your feet take a battering, and at some opportunity, even if you've still got wet boots on, just putting a dry pair of socks on is such a difference.
Oh yes. I can imagine that. Yes.
I mean, I think I need to order some more socks from the Fockham Hall online haberdashery,
Yes.
or whatever it is.
Definitely.
We need to get some. I need a couple of pairs of Fockhams for my feet. Fockham feet. There you go. Look, there's just so many marketing
there is
potentials. Yeah,
I've got some marketing.
You got
some pens the other day. Fockham Hall pens
for all your foot attire. Yeah, absolutely. Fockham footwear.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
I got some pens, which I'm going to start. We're going to have little quizzes and hopefully give some pens out. So that's going to be nice. And the other thing.
By the way, the thing about tea, just before we completely leave it, I don't know where I read this the other day. There was something talking about Germans when they were getting interrogated. They preferred to get interrogated by the British no matter what, because they said, one guy said, no matter how bad it's going, you were always assured at 4 o'clock that you get a cup of tea. It was straight up. All right, well, we're going to stop beating you up now. Okay, yeah. Do you want a cup of tea? Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. Okay, we'll be back.
Sorry, Patrick. I ignored you.
15 minutes.
Sorry, Patrick. I ignored you again. It's a National Ignorance Day. You see, I'm going around ignoring people, so I'm terribly sorry about that. Get to the swing of it. So, Steve, you've got Steve and Nathan presentation evening on the 7th of March. 6 to 10:30 p.m. Urban Angels, 19 Lansdowne Terrace. Oh, that's your secret base. Oh shit! Gospel. Oh bloody hell! Gospel, NE3 1HP. That's I think that's slightly north of the Watford Gap, isn't it?
It is slightly, yeah. It's that's a Newcastle, that is. So it's always sunny in Newcastle. And everybody is rich. So, everyone's got jobs and is well fed.
Excellent.
So move up to the northeast, and if you can't move up, at least come and attend my presentation on the 7th with Nathan Lucius, of course, who speaks regular with yourself.
That's right. That's brilliant.
And we'll unpropaganda everybody who attends. We'll take away the propaganda that's melted everybody's brains in the last few years. That's our aim.
So it's Gosforth. Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's good. And evening, Patrick. Have you been deprogrammed from being a robot yet, Patrick? Hello, Patrick. Are you there? Coey, wakey. No, I think he's still plugged in. Hang on, we got Jojo Gizmo has said, just down the road from the Gosforth Hotel. That's all right.
Oh, brilliant!
And Paul has said, I've got some religious socks. Well, they're holy. Well, actually, I think you got to, when they're nice and mature, you wrap them around your neck, don't you, Paul? Because that's how you get over the flu, isn't it? You wrap a sweaty sock around your
with a safety pin. You wrap the sock around your neck. And you have some lemonade, warm lemonade and whiskey, and wrap the sock around your neck. And within a matter of months, you'll be cured.
My mum, she did war work during the war. And she said that there was where she worked in this factory, they made ammunition boxes. And people don't realise it. It was illegal during World War II to leave your job. And she was on a reserved occupation because this country was a very rare. We conscripted women into the forces as well as men. Not many people know that. And that's why a lot of women, single women, because it was from the age of 18 to 30, they had marriages of convenience to get out of being conscripted. And after the war, the divorce rate went through the roof. And that's why, because they divorced afterwards. But on with the story. My mum said that where she worked, there was a bloke who was one of the managers, and his feet were so smelly that people almost passed out with the stink.
Oh,
I mean,
dear.
he used to put his foot up on the desk.
Yeah.
It made rotten eggs smell nice. Now, Haji is, what's it? I've walked me hound on a farm. He's got that much cow poo on his puds. He's outside fertilising me veggie patch with nitrogen. It was a good walk. He stinks. Well, I'm glad we like that.
I think we all needed to know that, didn't we?
Not many people
We
know
did.
that. There we go. It's explained. There we go. Right. So, Patrick, are you there? No. Shall we hold a seance? Shall we try and get through to Patrick? Come on, let's all think. Patrick, are you there? Nope, I don't think he is.
He's probably a bit nervous and can't talk because his brother's playing in the Super Bowl tonight.
Yes, that's a point.
Wow.
Yep.
In front of Donald
The Kansas
Trump's
City Chiefs. I went and looked him up, Patrick. So there you go. Yeah.
That's
I had to look
awesome.
him up. Yeah. Patrick
Well,
doesn't
good-
even know the
good luck
game's
to
going
him
on.
then.
He didn't even know the match is happening.
I wonder if I'm sure Patrick can hear, but I wonder what his thoughts of the Super Bowl halftime performance. In fact, what's your viewers' opinions on that? Because that's a massive. It's always a massive occult ritual. I don't
My
know if
view
you
is we
guys
should
know.
record it and get a video out tomorrow to promote all our radio shows because everybody's going to be doing it. I bet Monday is going to be Satanic Halftime Super Bowl Video Day on YouTube.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Mm.
It's always the case.
Oh, hello. He's back again. Oh,
What's
bloody
going
hell,
on?
He got the kazoo again.
How's it
Are
going?
you there? Hey!
Hey.
Don't
No,
tell
I
me.
don't recognize that voice. Who's that?
Oh,
I
is
only
that
recognize
awful?
the sound. Yes. Don't know who that is. Somebody pretending to be Patrick, Eric.
Yes,
Terrible.
it's an imposter. It's terrible. And we actually thought that as it's the last Zulu outpost, perhaps the Zulus have taken over there.
Yeah.
That's what we're hearing.
You never know.
Bloody hell, you know.
You never know. They got guns around here.
It's like the old. Have you seen Carry On Cowboy, Patrick?
I've
Yeah,
seen the
bits of
trailer
it?
to it and little
Yeah.
bits of it. Yeah, it's
Have you
funny.
seen that one where because they've all got terrible American accents? And it
Oh,
was
the
deliberate.
Indian.
Yeah,
The
when they were
Indian
flushing
chief.
the toilet.
Isn't the Indian played by Bernard Bresslaw?
No, it was.
Oh, he's
who
got
was
a
that?
thick British accent. It's just funny as all get out.
Oh, I can't think of his name. Who was that bloke? He's as thin as a rake.
Hello,
Oh,
I'm a
God.
Red Indian.
Yeah.
That.
No,
Was it Charles Hawtrey?
That's it. Charles Hawtrey acted the part of a Red Indian. That's the thing.
God.
Sid
Oh,
James.
what strange, that strange little man.
He
Yeah.
walked into a bar and she said there was who was that woman there? She was famous actress. She says, "Oh, show me your weapon, cowboy." And he gets his gun out. She's, "Boy," she said, "that's a big one." He says, "Yes, ma'am. I'm from Texas. We've all got big ones from Texas." I mean, it was so innuendo. But it was full of corny gags, wasn't it?
Just like those seaside postcards, that was, Eric. That's
Yeah,
exactly the
yeah.
same as what it was. Yes.
And hang on, Hachi said that Sid James as the Ringo Kid. What a sign of the times. Yes. And Paul has gone on to say the plane crashes in the US have been linked to the Super Bowl.
Really? Well, yeah, the one came from Kansas with a bunch of Russian figure skaters that hit the
Really?
helicopter in DC. I don't know about the other one though. I haven't heard too much about that. It's up in Philly. Oh, Philly, yeah. Well, they're the team that's playing the Chiefs, so it's the first one involved Kansas, the second one involved Philly.
Well, Harvey
Pennsylvania.
number 1 said that Charles Hawtrey was a paedophile who loved the sailors. And I've got a story about Charles Hawtrey because there used to be a policeman that lived opposite where I lived, and he's moved now. And he said that his beat was in Soho, and he was walking along with his mate one day, and Charles Hawtrey came out of a pub absolutely pissed out of his mind, and he tried chatting him and his mate up. But no, he lived in Brighton, I think. You know,
That's the police for you.
Yes, yes. He wanted to see his truncheon, I think. No, it says here, Paul. This is Paul. He says the name of the Black Hawk pilot's name equaled 1831, and the crash was 1831 days, 1,831 days after Kobe Bryant's death, who died.
Well, no, wait. How does it equal 1831? Explain that one to me. Yeah,
I don't know.
That'll be in gematria.
Yeah,
it'll be a gematria.
I figured as much.
Yeah. Speaking of gematria, I think actually Paul, who's written that, he referred me to somebody who studies gematria and has got an excellent YouTube channel, which I'd like to mention. He's called Zachary B. Hubbard, and I think that's the name of his YouTube channel as well. So if anyone's interested in gematria, he decodes many of these instances with a lot of interesting narrative to go with it as well on his YouTube channel. And I would highly recommend that. So thanks to Paul for giving me that link. And he talks quite a lot recently about the Super Bowl and of course the recent air accidents that have been happening throughout the world.
If you could if you could shove that, Steve, in the chat, I'd be most grateful, because I could, if I was on StreamYard, put a banner along the bottom, but with Ustream, well, you probably can, but I don't know how to do it. So I'm a bit bugged.
We'll have to show you how to use OBS one of these days, Eric.
Yeah, I've got to use OBS. What went on tonight? I mean, isn't it strange that Rumble worked perfectly last week and now it's gone tits up this week? It's something.
Yeah, and there's something about scheduling it the day ahead of time, and if you schedule it right away, it's just hard to do.
I mean, Eric, it could be that you're very, very drunk. What do you think?
That could be it too.
Yes, it could.
Maybe you were really drunk when you set the show. I mean, it's possible, isn't it?
Yes, it could be. You never know.
Could be that.
Mind you, I think.
I mean, I'm very drunk right now.
Yes, my tea was a bit strong last night,
yeah,
so that might have been it. Yes,
it could be the tea.
I know what it is.
Well,
it's all the hormones they're putting in the water. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah, all that birth control floating down river.
Yeah, I got the old birth control pill. And this is Ricardo. Hello, Ricardo. He says, Sid James opened a Tesco store in Leicester, England in 1961. Not many people know
Those were the days.
I
remember my mum and dad talking about that. Do you remember that? That was a big event, eh? I didn't realise Tesco had started that so soon. 1960 bloody one, eh?
Bloody hell, 1961. Crumbs alive. And,
I think Sid James died on stage in Sunderland.
He did.
Doing a show.
And apparently it's haunted, isn't it?
Is it?
Les Dawson did a show there, and apparently he saw the ghost of what's his name? Sid James, and it scared the frighteners off of him. I was going to say scared the shit out of him, but I thought about it because I'm on YouTube. You see,
26th of April 1976, 4 days after the end of the 6th series of Bless This House, Sid James was on tour in a revival of a comedy, The Mating Season, when he suffered a heart attack on stage at the Sunderland Empire Theatre.
Oh.
How about that?
And
so there we go.
Was he doing cocaine or something like that?
Here we are.
I mean, heart attack that's terrible.
YouTube, Zachary B. Hubbard, Geometria. Right. Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks.
No bother.
Thanks, Steve, for pointing that. And we got here Reg Varney, Stan, another one. He was on a show called On the Buses. I don't think you'd know about that, Patrick. Sort of a comedy show. Another one, if the boys introduced the first, yes, right, he introduced the first cash point machine. God help us. Yes, that was in Enfield in 1967, I believe, or 1968. So that's Reg Varney.
Wow.
Used the first cash point machine, yes.
What's a cash point machine? Is it ATM?
Yeah,
Teller?
ATM.
Automatic teller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But actually,
Wow,
try looking it up on YouTube, Patrick. And that was On the Buses. Very, very English. Very, very English on that. It's a sort of,
James.
no, it's James wasn't in it. It was Reg Varney in that.
Oh, okay. On the buses. All right.
And
Oh, that was awful. That was just so
yeah,
bad.
it was, wasn't it? I mean,
Oh, gosh, I'm shuddering. I'm getting depressed just thinking about it. That guy, Bob, who played the other bus conductor, who had, Patrick, you know the thing about English teeth being bad?
Yeah.
Well, the co-star in this, he was world champion of bad teeth. Those teeth were just, I just can't, I'm shuddering thinking about those teeth. And what was the name of Reg's wife? Was it Olive? Wasn't she called Olive?
And she was actually attractive when she wasn't made up like that. She was a stripper. She was South African, and she was actually a stripper before she went on to that. And she was really quite
all
funny.
these things, Eric. I think it's always so revealing that you're able to drop these sorts of tidbits into the conversation. Nobody else knows that, but you.
And, she died a couple of years ago. She lived in a shithole in East London. I don't know why.
Right.
And her house burnt down, and she burnt to death. That's sad, isn't it?
Well, Olive did.
Olive. Yeah. Sad, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's sad. It is, really.
Yeah. Hatchie's back me up on that one. Here we are. Hatchie.
Anna Karen.
Yes. Unfortunately, Olive from On the Buses burnt to death in a real fire. That's right.
Anna
yes.
Karen, that was her name.
Is it Anna Karen? Did you
I'm
see
just
pictures
looking
of her when she had the hot pants on?
I'm watching the opening title sequence in the cartoon. That's all I look at are the names.
His teeth arrived 5 minutes before the bus arrived.
They did.
It just was, I'll get you, butler. That was it. But, actually, Reg Varney, he retired to Devon. He lived in Devon, nice part of the world. And the bloke who acted the part of the bus inspector, he died in an old people's home in another shithole in the East End. So what was it about the East End that they like flocked to? I don't know.
Well, they were probably the last people of the East End, because really English people aren't there anymore now, are they? In any great number.
What about Arthur Mullard? Do you remember Arthur Mullard?
Yeah, I always remember his impersonation of Greta Garbo.
That's right. I want to be alone.
Yeah, so it would there's another line after that. It was, I want to be alone, so piss off. Don't you remember that? That's how it went. That was the Arthur Mullard doing his Greta Garbo impersonation. Yeah. Yeah, he was good. Yeah. He had a face only a mother could love, right? It was one of those.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And he was just a character, wasn't he? I don't think you had to act. He wasn't really a comedian as such. He just, I don't know what it was, but people just warmed to him.
He was just a bloke they found outside on the street. They said, "Yeah, we'll do." And he just went, "All right." Yeah, he was a bit like that, wasn't he?
And he lived in the same council house. He was rolling in money, but he never moved to a posh place. He lived in a council house in some shithole in London. Same as Arthur. What's his name? Drake. What's his name? Charlie Drake.
Charlie Drake. Yeah.
Yeah, he died in some shithole in South London.
Well, they might have been right happy there. You see, this is it. People get used to a certain thing. They go, I don't want any change. It's funny because it just gets exhausting, doesn't it? I mean, when you're young, everything's changing all the time. But after a while, you go, right, forget that. I just want 3 pairs of underpants. Well, 2, I suppose, if you're being a bit thrifty, and some shirts. And I just want to sit here forever. I don't want to do anything else. It's very funny. I quite like it, actually. I think it's very comical. But yeah.
And Ricardo said she was in or I'll call it Arsenders, EastEnders. Yes, was she? That's where. I'll tell you something else that Patrick needs to look up. Have you ever heard of? Do you remember Crossroads, Paul? It's the worst show ever.
I'm just feeling a bit ropey when you say things like that. Yes.
Steve,
I know of it. I know of all.
Yeah,
I'm just letting you know. I've never ever seen one of them ever. I've caught glimpses of them, all of them. I've caught glimpses of all of them, and I'm out of the room, or the TV's got a brick through it, or it's off. I won't have that stuff anywhere near me. It's toxic. It's poison for the soul.
I agree with you, but when I was a nipper, my sister, because we had a flickering black and white television, loved all the soaps. She used to watch Peyton Place, which was like a non-stop funeral, and Crossroads. And that, be careful, because when I closed the door, the bleeding scenery went backwards and forwards, didn't it? And it was the worst acting you could ever wish to see. It made amateur dramatics look like, I don't know, the Royal Shakespeare Company. It was so bad. Now, we've got here Stephen Lewis. This is Mark Anthony, who played Inspector Blakey on the buses, was also in Last of the Summer Wine. Was he? Yeah, that was a show I could never stand. I didn't find anything funny in that. I don't know what it was. And that was filmed up near where you are, Steve, wasn't it? Last of the Summer Wine, Yorkshire or somewhere? Oh no, you're
that's miles from me. Yeah, it was somewhere in Yorkshire, I believe.
It's filmed near where I were from. Aye.
Was it?
Aye. It was. Do you know it's the longest running comedy show in the world?
Bloody hell. Really?
Like 35 years or 40. Yeah, it just went on and on and on.
Wow.
It started in the 70s and it was still running in 2012 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something like that. Although The Simpsons is going to overtake it because they just won't stop. They've been going since 1989, The Simpsons.
Bloody
on
hell.
1990 on Tracy Ullman's show. So how long's that? 35, 36 years and climbing. So they'll probably win because they do 8,000 shows a year, don't they, as well? It's just incredible.
That's right. Crossroads with Benny. Eldorado, top trumps Crossroads for cheese. Although, this is Paul, do you remember the A-Team? BA stunt double with a white guy with a hat
Mr.
on.
T.
With a mohawk on it. Yeah, that was a bit bad, wasn't it? Mr. T and all that. But,
there's an Eddie Murphy joke about Mr. T. You should listen to. I won't play it here.
If it was on Rumble, I suppose we could. Thanks,
maybe.
mate. Hang on a minute. My dad hated this character. Crossroads David Hunter. Yes, the man always how'd you say this? Always paused before saying a line. Was around when Rolf Harris was teaching me to swim on the TV.
Kids in water, they love it.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I fell in the pond. You can bet my dad had me to swim all over. But some kids are not so lucky. Good old Rolf, eh? Bloody hell, watch out. Suddenly the word didgeridoo takes on a completely different and rather menacing meaning these days, doesn't it?
Well, someone said, imagine being in a children's hospital about 40 years ago, and the announcement comes that Jimmy Savile couldn't make it, and everybody takes a breath of fresh air, and suddenly they hear a didgeridoo coming up the stairs.
But Rolf Harris can. Don't worry, kids. Rolf Harris is here to take over.
Rolf Harris never changed his act from the 60s. How he kept going, I do not know. I think he must have been a Mason or something, because how did he keep going with exactly the same act all the time? It's all the wobble board and the bleeding didgeridoo.
Two little boys had two little toys. And then there was the didgeridoo. And then there was the painting. But I always liked I was amazed with the painting. Although I suspect it was all pre-lined out before he did it. No, I don't really. The painting was always, Anyway, there you go. I've no idea. I don't know how it works.
Yes.
You've just got to be in showbiz.
He made asthma artistic, didn't he? So, and And the thing that got me about Rolf Harris, though, is that he always looked as if he's been asked in at the last moment, didn't he? Was he cut here?
Well, I kind of look like that.
Rolf Faru. Well, he changed the term Rolfing, didn't he? You know, the dog is rolfing my leg.
I'm sure we've got away from the main topic of discussion, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was.
Yeah, what were you talking about?
We was talking about the topic of the show was about since 1945, and what I was going to say on Rumble, which I can't say on YouTube, is that how the things that the naughty Nazis are supposed to have done, we've done since 1945. Think about it, a hell of a lot of things,
Well, look at what happened to the World Trade Center is kind of like the burning of the Reichstag.
Yeah.
Similar.
Probably a bit worse, actually. It's a bit worse than the burning of the Reichstag.
But as far as being a false flag.
Hang on, we're back to Ricardo. He says, Rolf, he says, can you tell what it is yet? You know. Oh, don't mention the Jake the Peg song. This is Mark Anthony. I wonder what the third leg is referring to. Yes.
Oh, dear me. I'm just
electricity.
God.
That's the third leg.
And Haji said, I used to run home and watch Hey Hey, We're the Monkeys. Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
With Davy Jones.
That was
Davy Jones and Mickey Dolenz. And Nesmith, who played the guitar.
I think there's only one
and
left.
Peter Talk. Yeah. Those are the names. Yes. Michael Nesmith. Wasn't he the guitarist? There you go. Yeah, they were great, the Monkees. They had such good hats. Yeah, they were great.
But apparently, was it supposed to outdo the Beatles? But they were all part of the psyop, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
both the Beatles and the Monkees.
Yeah.
Well, Davy
it was
Jones
a psyop to do them both, probably, wasn't it?
Over here, the Ed Sullivan Show, the first act was actually Davy Jones doing Oliver Twist, and then the Beatles came on. That was their introduction to America.
Really?
Are you familiar with Laurel Canyon?
Yeah, what's his name? McGowan? Dave McGowan?
Yeah.
He wrote a book about it.
I mean, I wonder if the Monkees were part of that Laurel Canyon psyop sort of CIA involvement.
Yeah, it goes back to Tavistock, like we were talking about the other show.
Yeah.
And, military.
Well,
quite like Monkees, though. Anybody like Monkees?
I like them. Neil Diamond.
I know. I can tell you. We often are searching for monkey documentaries. Monkeys and bears are very popular at the moment. Bears are very popular in this house. We don't watch TV. We just watch things about monkeys and bears. Not together, of course. I don't think it'd come out too well for the monkeys. But I don't know why I mentioned that. But yeah, monkeys. And those Japanese ones.
So, you know. I think they're like almost like humans, aren't they? They're bloody creepy. Haji said all manufactured bands that include the Stones. Watch some Mark Devlin. Yes, and I was hoping to get Mark Devlin on the show. So, you know.
I knew that. I hate the Rolling Stones. I mean, seriously, honestly.
I do too.
People go, have you got the Stones album? I go, why the crap? We went to see him at Leeds, right? I'm serious. What year is this? It's rated as one of their best gigs ever. I think it's 1980 or 82. There's an album called Live at Leeds or something in Roundhay Park. I left after 15 minutes. My mate said, where are you going? I said, they're shit. They're absolutely useless. That guy at the front, what's his name? He can't sing for toffee. He couldn't hold an emotion to save his life. Useless. Absolutely useless.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I don't care how many albums there's no accounting for people just going, they're great. No, they're not. They're just a little 2-bit rock band in a cafe. And that's about it, really.
I'll let you into a secret. Did you know that I actually heard the Rolling Stones tunes performed in the 1930s by hillbilly bands, and they got them and they copied them. And Honky Tonk Women was done in about 1932 or 33, something like that.
And it's probably, I get the original, Patrick, because it's probably better.
It's probably better, yeah.
Yes, it's probably better because it'll have melody in it and good stuff.
About the way that Brian Jones died.
Yeah, they didn't like.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
there is definitely odd about him. Yeah, he probably was onto it. A bit like John Lennon was after the Beatles. That's why they did John Lennon.
Was he
I'm sure
not
of it.
27 as well?
The
Brian
27
Jones.
Club, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, you've just said, do you want to read this out, Steve? You said here, was it February the 14th, 2024? That's when
Yeah.
I have my, I've got my teeth looked at, regular checkup.
Yeah, I thought I'd mention that because we were talking about sort of psyops and propaganda and the likes. And of course, was it Patrick who's talking about Kansas City earlier?
I
and I think,
wasn't. Oh,
was
no,
it
we were
not?
talking about the plane crashes. Yeah, we were.
Yeah, well, I think there was something to do with Kansas City relative to that plane crash. I'm not sure what exactly, but Kansas, that kind of brought my attention back to what happened in Kansas City. February the 14th, which is known in the occult calendar as Lupercalia. We obviously know it in its more modern term, which is Valentine's Day. Of course, Valentine is associated with the bow and arrow and Cupid. But essentially, Lupercalia is about Nimrod, and Nimrod was associated with piercing the hearts of men with his bow and arrow. And again, this is how this kind of modern day ritual comes into being. But interestingly, February the 14th is another occult holy date. And of course, when the numbers started to circulate, I was quite interested because 33 people were wounded in total. 22 of them, I believe, were children, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe one died, or 21 were children and one died. That's 22. And again, these are big, powerful numbers. These are known as master numbers in numerology and occultism. 22 and 33. 33, of course, being associated with the Freemasons. And this crops up an awful lot in what you could call psyops, false flags, propaganda. And again, whether it was real or not, these numbers are often circulated because it adds tension and emotion into what's known as psychodramas. So Kansas City as well, that's interesting because if we take the initials K and C, K is 11 and C is the third letter. 11 times 3 is another 33. Now, interestingly, if you remember JFK, there was 3 stooges arrested. And of course, these had absolutely nothing to do with the shooting, but they've got everything to do with the 3 stooges, or what's known as the 3 Masonic assassins in Masonic law. And again, without boring you with the details, one of the rituals in Masonry is about the ritual of Hiram Abiff, who struck 3 times by the 3 assassins, one in the head, one in the chest, and one in the throat.
They had some weird names too. I forget what it was. It was like it started with a J.
Jabello, and something or other. The 3 J's essentially. And again, that's another thing to watch for, the initials, the JJJ. J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man, for example, with the 2 colors of Freemasonry, the red and the blue lodge in his outfit.
It's an interesting day today because it is Super Bowl Sunday, and my brother is on the Chiefs team as a linebacker. So he's in it for the 3rd Super Bowl of his professional career, which he started out first year with winning a Super Bowl for their team. And it's interesting. I'm reading this book by David Irving about Dresden. The way they talk about the chiefs of staff of the Americans and the Air Force, it's an interesting term that they chose. And the thing of it is, the guy who started the Chiefs football team, his grandfather or his father was H.L. Hunt, who was a East Texas oil billionaire. He was considered the Bill Gates of his day, the richest man on earth in the 30s and 40s, or not on earth, but in America, for his financing and of the war effort and the petroleum that he put in, that he contributed to it. I just find it interesting that they chose the name Chiefs, because it does remind me of the chiefs of staff that were all involved in the planning of these bombings of Germany during World War II, which are just horrendous when you read about it. And then how the Brits kind of the way David Irving makes it sound is that the Americans were a bit naive of what they were getting into, but I kind of doubt it. But maybe there were some naive Americans, but the Brits were, they had perfected the method of area bombing and basically going after civilian targets in order to create as much terror as possible to demoralize the Germans. And not so much going after oil refineries and manufacturing hubs and transportation hubs. Kind of, those were like secondary targets compared to the civilian homes, where they just completely destroyed, tens of thousands at a time. And then Dresden up to about 500,000, 500,000 people killed as a consequence. Horrendous. And we're going to have that show on Thursday. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And I hope we can arrange one later in February with the similar team where we talk about Dresden and that on Rumble. I hope I can get this problem sorted out with Rumble, because it's really getting on my nerves, because there's so much I wanted to say tonight, which I can't say because it's YouTube. And, but these things are sent to try us. So it's probably happened, who knows, for a reason. But Paul has gone on to say, used to get cheesy programs like Lost in Space with Dr. Zachary Smith. Yes.
Danger Will Robinson.
That's it. Pugsy Bear is not a good symbol. Oh, bloody hell, yeah, don't start me off about that. Paul Mohammed has said, hang on, where are we? All music, if not 90%, is linked to Tavistock Institute. I agree with you there.
It's Led Zeppelin. Can I just mention Pudsey Bear? Is that the Children in Need character?
Yes.
Is that the one with the bandage over one eye?
Yes.
It in fact, it is, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, that in itself adds, in its original format, that had even more occult symbology to it, because Pudsey Bear used to, not only is he doing the one eye symbol, but he also he was also placed inside a triangle, a pyramid shape, essentially the Illuminati triangle, you could say. I thought that was interesting.
Yes, that is, and I don't know. There's something about that symbology that is a bit weird. Now we got here. We found out some little secret about Paul here. Paul said, "Who's your preferred bear, Paul, Paddington, Pooh, or Rupert?" And Paul English has said Pooh. I can't smell anything. And was it?
There was a cookbook they came out with Winnie the Pooh. It was called Cooking with Pooh.
There is an actual book called Cooking with Pooh, isn't there?
Yeah.
Kind of like Yogi Bear.
Yes, it's a bit like the
Yogi Bear and Poo Poo.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
I was talking about going to have my teeth looked at, you see, and do you hear about the prostitute that goes to see the doctor, you see, and the doctor says, "You had a checkup recently?" She said, "No, but I had a Scotsman last night." Sorry, it's a terrible one.
Oh God.
Harvey number 1 says, hence the V1 and V2 vengeance weapons civilian bombing. Yes, because the idea was to put the fear of God up, wear the civilians down so they surrender. But it didn't really, that psychology didn't work, because it hardened the resolve of people.
It's worth mentioning that they were Masonic weapons in their own right. They were Masonic checkerboard designs, and the fact that they were called V2 as well is very Masonic.
Really?
Yeah. V2 is basically the 2 chevrons.
But Mr. H banned Freemasonry, didn't he? And
he closed down a lot of Freemasonry lodges, but that doesn't mean that whole element of occultism was completely banished. There was, there was a lot of Masonic lodges closed down throughout Europe, essentially through the Nazi involvement and Germany, but that allowed certain occult factions such as Thule and Vril to reign supreme, and of course these were satanically orientated occult lodges and occult orders.
Although there was, I know that they were very much into the occult in many ways, and I think it was Paul. Who was that chap? Was it the head of the SS? What's his name now? Come on, brain thing. Come on,
Reinhard Galen.
No. He was very much into the occult in a very big
Himmler?
way. Himmler, yeah.
Yeah,
Himmler was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Mr. H was not
But
so.
you see,
big.
I think it's a funny word, occult, right? Because the instantaneous understanding is of something not good, and that's not what it means. It is, of course, associated with people getting up to no good in the dark, but what it simply means is hidden. So it's truth that reveals itself under a more educated eye, which sounds a bit snotty, but it's true. So the Bible is full of occult truths that do not make themselves immediately known to a direct reading. They require a more
interpretation,
contextual reading, or whatever word you want to use. You have to be more considerate about what you're doing. So, you get stories operating on many levels. So there's nothing wrong with the occult at all. There's a lot wrong with people like Aleister Crowley, who abused it. And also I'm just picking him out because he's the most obvious one. There's not much that he actually taught anybody, to be quite honest. You can find all that stuff elsewhere, and it's not necessarily dark. It's a bit like a gun, isn't it? You go, guns are terrible. No, they're not. Not if you've been attacked by a lot of people who are armed to the teeth. I want as many guns as I can get. Thank you very much. But they're pretty bad if someone just goes off and starts using them indiscriminately to kill innocent people. Yeah, so it's not,
I agree.
It's that kind of stuff.
A cult is, for example, I don't know. I know shortcuts around where I live that you don't know or wouldn't know, and shortcuts around where you live, where you visiting places and that I don't know. So that could be termed as occult.
When people use the word occult, they usually mean occult magic. That's what I think of.
Yes,
at least.
They probably do. But then you've got to define what you mean by magic as well, which is quite interesting.
Well, kind of like anything other than worship of God, in my book anyway. I mean, in what I believe.
Right.
A lot of people term magic as just being able to alter anything in reality by whatever means, whether that's subconsciously or physically. I mean, I do presentations on. I obviously do presentations on the occult. That's my big subject. So it does come with a lot of connotations, and a lot of people do think it's all about darkness, which of course it's not. It's just about hidden knowledge, like Paul's correctly said. But the Nazis were prolific with the use of dark occult practices, and essentially that just means they've kept hidden knowledge extra hidden for their own advantage, and that's essentially what dark occultism is.
I would consider it kind of like pagan versus, say, Christian or Jewish or something in between, like Islam.
Okay, I mean, there's elements of all that goes. You could use as an umbrella into the occult in general. Large aspects of all religions have large embodiments of occult doctrine within it. But in essence, anything that's used to gain advantage of other groups of people, such as what the Nazis used occult knowledge for, is teetering on into what's known as the dark occult, and this is what Nazi Germany was massively embroiled in dark occultism. It's fascinating, really, in one sense, but it's fascinating to see just how this was used to propagate one group of people against another.
There was a Werner Herzog film about this particular topic regarding the Germans, and it was called Invincible. I think it was made 20 years ago or so. and it goes into that kind of
But
realm.
when you look at that WWII film, what was it? The Masonic victory of
World War
World
II.
War II, and he goes into the Pentagon. I don't think you get much darker than that. That is absolutely very dark.
Yeah, and then the groundbreaking for the Pentagon was on September 11th, 1941.
Correct. And also, everything was going in
Which-
Germany's favour up until then. And then after then, it went the opposite way round. And I know that a guest on your show, future guest on your show, Paul, was saying
Dennis?
that, not Dennis, I've got a mental block tonight. I think it's
Monica.
Monica. She's saying her mother said that during the war, because her mother was a teenager during the war, they had the terrible winter, and even Mr. H said this is just not normal. This is almost, it seems like some sort of curse or something.
Curse,
It's really
yeah.
weird. Yeah, because they had the worst winter, I think, since I don't know if the records began or for a long time, and that's what stopped Germany. But they got within 11 miles of the Kremlin. They could actually see the rooftops there. That is close. It's unbelievable. But talking about V1s, we got here. Harvey number 1 said the checkered pattern was for tracking. Oh,
What's that?
That's on the
Checkered
V1.
pattern?
Yeah, on the V1s and V2 was for tracking.
Oh, they were painted in a checkered pattern.
Yes,
I take it.
yes. And that's very kind of you, Paul. He said, "Tap the thumbs up, everyone. Thanks, mate. That's very kind."
Yeah, good.
And let's.
I
all
just
think,
tapped it.
Let's think. Thanks, mate. And I tap yours as well. And it sounds disgusting, doesn't it? And
I think I've got to go now.
yes, and it's not the gun that's. Paul said it's not the gun that's the problem. It's the person holding it. I agree. It's like a knife. A knife could be used to carve things and make good things.
Yeah.
Of course, be used
And
for evil things.
morally, it's like being out hunting. You've got a gun and you're aiming it, but you don't know if you're shooting at an animal or a human being.
Mhm.
And if you're reckless, you shoot anyway, not knowing
Mhm.
which. So there's
And
the
that shooting
morality of it.
It can be quite dangerous, I believe. Is it right, Sir Patrick, that there's a certain number of people that are shot each year accidentally during the shooting season?
Oh, we had
America?
somebody out in front of my dad's driveway. It was two guys. They were out without permission hunting during
Mhm.
hunting season, gun rifle season, and they were in their pickup truck. And they didn't know the gun was loaded, and the guy's buddy moved and hit the trigger and shot the guy right in the arm. And I remember going to see the scene afterwards. That they had already gone, but it was snowy out, so there's blood all over the place, and it's just like these people were idiots. I saw their truck. They left their truck. And yeah, people get in an accident. It's quite common, unfortunately, and that's why guns are nice. We sit here and as Americans sit and talk up the Second Amendment and say, oh, this is our protection. It's like, well, it doesn't protect you from stupidity. So you just have to
Swiss,
like anything.
The Swiss are armed to the teeth, but there's very few accidents there because they trained. That's right. And apparently, I've never seen it, but because I've only been to Switzerland once. But there's people walk along the road openly with their guns right over their shoulder. But Paul Mohammed said the magic is once you see something, you cannot unsee it. And you've got a fan here, Steve. He says Steve sure knows his stuff. That's from That's life, but not as we know it. That's very
top
good.
lad. I hope you all watch his channel, by the way.
And well, I'd say everyone on here, apart from myself, knows their stuff tonight. So there we go. And we got here. Steve, stop using the N word. N word?
The N word.
Oh, Newcastle. Oh, bloody hell, I've said it. Newcastle. Shit.
Yeah, it's a dirty word, that Newcastle.
Dirty word. Oh, you said it. Oh,
no.
What are we gonna? He said Newcastle.
Just say brown ale.
Yeah.
I could give you some stories about that. regarding the occult.
Well,
I'll give
brown
you
ale?
quickly. I might have mentioned it here before.
yeah.
A pint of brown ale is known colloquially as a pint of dog, and seriously, it's known as a pint of dog. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because the dog star is Sirius, and the dog star is also known, or Sirius is also known as the blue star. And guess what Newcastle is associated with the breweries? The Blue Star. The Blue Star and a pint of dog, with its Masonic links to Sirius. Again, that's a very short thumbnail sketch of how masonry works. But
So are you saying, Steve, that one of the reasons why Newcastle don't win very much is because they play like dogs?
yeah. Well, interestingly enough, they've even got a Masonic checkerboard.
We've got all the lads in the pubs in Newcastle. I won't show my face and say a thing like that.
Yeah, I don't follow football, to be fair, so
No.
And Paul Mohammed said, and there is no link to German and the fear of germs.
yeah, good point.
And he says Haji says all military uniforms have similar symbols on them, chevrons, etc., throughout history. That's
because
weird, isn't it?
Well, it's not weird, simply because it's always been linked to Freemasonry. All of it. It's so massively steeped in the Freemasonic tradition. It's almost hilarious.
Well, you may be able to prove me wrong here, Steve, but I always thought saluting was when they used to have armour on and they had the sort of shields. They used to lift the sort of visor up to say hello or speak to someone. And that's what I was told. I don't know if it's true or not. That's where saluting came from, because you had to sort of hold the shield up, out the visor up. Is that true?
Yeah, I've heard that in terms of the historical reason for it, but also, even if we were just to put a more kind of occult factoid towards it, we're pointing this element. We're addressing the Sir by pointing to our third eye. We are kind of humbling ourselves to the serpent, the Sir.
Ah.
So that's what we're doing. We are pointing our third eye and addressing the higher authority, the serpent.
Interesting, because it's the longest way round to do the salute and the shortest way down, isn't it? Have I got that right?
No, I don't know.
And down, something like this, But I actually prefer the Fockham salute, which is it's the one hand up the back side with one foot slightly inwards, going, and the salute. I can't really do that without vision. And what we got here, Nazi. That's Harvey number one. And he said National Socialist is acceptable. That's right. It is. They were National Socialists, and because the real fascists were Italian. That's from fasci. Was it the sticks?
The bundle of rods? Yeah, the bundle of rods and the axe. Interestingly, you've got that in the American Senate. Congress has got this.
In the chamber, they have two of them on the chamber wall.
Is it the Lincoln Memorial's got them as well?
The penny does. I know that. It used to have it on the opposite side of Lincoln. Yeah, it's an old symbol though. It predates any of that. Any of the 30s and 40s.
It is an ancient symbol, but it's symbolic of military might and fascist power. Essentially, is
Roman. It's usually Roman military.
Roman. Yeah. The old legends and old mythologies of Rome never kind of disappeared. They just moved.
Now, Paul Mohammed said, Newcastle, what happened to the old castle? And Paul has said, Simpsons and Minions are both blue and yellow, Freemason colours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good point. Well spotted, yeah.
Yeah. My hero, the brown bottle. That's horrendous get booked. And Paul Mohammed has said, we have all been newified. It's all new, and the old is laid to waste. Hmm. And her just get fucked has said, or cider woman. Hey? Okay. And we've got Paul Mohammed said, reset, wake up, and they have done it many times before, as if you are in a loop tape. Old souls will know. That's Paul Mohammed. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. Can you work that one out?
I think he's saying that you know we've probably went through stages. This is what I'm interpreting. We've went through stages of where the old understanding's been destroyed, and we've kind of grown into a new paradigm many times.
Have you ever heard the? I've heard this explained by Germar Rudolph about Auschwitz. If you take the name Auschwitz and you break it up into German, it means a small joke. Have you ever heard that?
No.
I know because Witz means joke in German. Os mean
No, I didn't know that.
but I know it might be a dialect of it. But
yeah, I know to travel is to flirt. And when you see the words fart all over the place, yes, F-A-R-T, that means to travel.
Well, there was a musician back in, I think it was the 40s and 50s. His name was Whoopi John Wilfart. Now imagine that name, Wilfart.
Wilfart. And Paul has said, I think Paul means we've been through great resets before, and I agree with him. And I think on that note, we've come up to the time. Thank you, gentlemen, for being so cooperative, so helpful. And I'd like to thank, thanks, Patrick. I can't thank you enough for the help at the beginning of this show. Thanks for coming on, Steve.
Glad we made it
Paul,
work.
Patrick, and it worked. We've got a good audience, and I'm definitely going to sort this out. And quite honestly, I've had enough of bloody Rumble, but I want to use Rumble, and it's not Rumble that's a problem, it's me that's a problem, because I should get something that works. So I think the responsibility is on my shoulders to get this worked out, because we're going to have some great guests coming on the Sundays, and it's a shame we were a bit gagged tonight because I had a plan for the show, but we couldn't mention it on YouTube. So, but this advertising now, what is it again? So anybody, so first of all, Steve, you've got your talk coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, the 7th of March, me and Nathan, I'm talking about natural law, objective morality, exercise and conscience, or some of the things I've mentioned today. Down with the government. I'll probably mention that a couple of times. So if you're in the Northeast, please come along.
Oh, I'm sure you get a very warm welcome, very nice people in Northeast. And now Hatchie has said, where are we? Hang on. Are you out tomorrow night? No. What's happened is Deborah Singleton's coming on my YouTube channel tomorrow night, and we're going to have a show on mysteries. So that should be quite interesting. And also watch out for the smutty gag at the beginning of the show, which is about Keir Starmer. That's a good one, I think. So I think you'll enjoy that one. And we got here, anyone remember Captain? No, it's Mr. Methane on Opportunity Knocks. No, I think he was on another one, wasn't he? It was Mr. Was it Captain Methane? He wore a green suit. I think he was from Northeast. He was how can I explain it? It's a bit like Lepetamine. Anyway, Lepetamine. Look that one up. I think you know what I mean. And anyway, good night all. Much love. That's very, very kind. Here we go. And you've just said, Steve, good luck with Super Bowl, Patrick. Yes, let's wish your brother good luck. Now, this Thursday, Paul, is going to be a very special show on the Paul English Live on Rumble. So remember, it's Paul English Live on Rumble. Far away, mate. So plug away.
Yeah, well, Monica Shaver's joining us. It's the 13th of February, obviously this Thursday. We're going to be talking about, well, we'll start off talking about Dresden, but it'll expand out. We're not going to just spend 2 hours focusing on bombing raids. But obviously, it is literally the 80th anniversary on that day of the start of that 3-day period. So we'll be looking at all sorts of things. It's possible. Dennis Wise is also invited to attend, but I've just got to arrange the sort of lineup of the thing. So, but I'm expecting them probably both to be there. So I'll be speaking to Dennis. I don't think it should be a problem. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Brilliant. I guess we're slated for 2 hours on WBN. We tend to overrun. So it may well end up being a 3-hour show, as it often does, but that's what we're going to be doing this Thursday. Yeah, so it'll be a wider remit, but we're going to use obviously the Dresden anniversary to talk about these things, and also really I think to look at the situation we're in today, because that's really the relevance of all of these things, how it's affecting us now.
I agree. This is what I wanted to cover tonight as well, but we couldn't really do it because it was all the technical problems, and of course we can't do that on YouTube. And because you're on, was it 8 o'clock, and it's Paul English Live on Rumble, so please be there.
Yeah, or we're on radiosoapbox.com as well at the same time, so we get the full broadcast out on that too. So yeah,
or just go to paulenglishlive.com.
Yeah,
yes,
all the links. All the links are there. We'll be on. We're even going on YouTube. How about that, Eric? So I'll be going on YouTube as well. I'm not really too worried about it. So we'll go out on as many platforms.
On Friday, we had a roundtable on RBN. Friday night on Richard Carey's show, and then after that, I was asked on another show, and the host couldn't show up, so I ended up hosting the show. And then Monica called in.
You Radio Tart, Patrick. You're everywhere.
It
Fantastic.
was fun. She called in, and we had a ball of a time. So quite good.
Well, I'm hoping to do a sort of a World War II special, because it's the 80th anniversary, the end of World War II, at the end of this month. Well, Paul and I, we're sort of arranging it now, because I didn't want to clash with Paul's show, so we're hoping to, we're going to do something at the end of this month, so it would be far enough away. And now, Patrick, you got anything to plug?
I have nothing to plug other than you know, if you're bored and you want something to listen to, I'm doing a radio stream 24/7, kind of like Radio Soapbox. It's radiowindmiller.com. I do some other American shows and stuff, but I also play stuff that Radio Soapbox does.
Brilliant. And I believe we're broadcasting live on Radio Windmiller tonight, as well as Soapbox Radio as well. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for being very patient. We've had technical problems. I think it's just a night of technical problems tonight, hasn't it? I mean, it's just, you name it, it's gone wrong. So
we figured it out.
We figured it out. Thanks, everyone, and whatever happens, join us tomorrow night, 8 o'clock on YouTube, and Deborah Singleton will be on there talking about mysteries. So there we go. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. And good night.